Good afternoon, County Executive Ball, distinguished guests, press, and community members, both here and watching on Facebook Live. Thank you for participating in this momentous occasion. I am Yolanda Sonnier. I was told to spell my name. I know how to, but it's Yolanda. Last name Sonnier, Sonnier. I'm the administrator for the Howard County Office of Human Rights and Equity. Today we are here regarding Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, and Emancipation Day. Whatever title you use, it's a day of reflection and celebration. I know our esteemed speakers will address the history and significance of Juneteenth, so I won't. But I will say that Juneteenth is a time of reflection and celebration not only for African Americans, but for all. Juneteenth is part of American history. Juneteenth is part of all of our story. County Executive Calvin Ball has been a visionary and has the foresight to identify, acknowledge, and celebrate parts of history that most choose to ignore. I am proud to be present and stand along our county executive with this announcement. At this time, I have the pleasure of introducing and bringing forth our county executive, Calvin Ball.
Thank you so very much, Yolanda, not only for that warm introduction, but for your dedication and your work on behalf of all of our Howard County residents. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Each year, on June 19th, communities across our county, our state, and our nation unite to celebrate and acknowledge Juneteenth. Juneteenth marks the day in 1865 that Union soldiers announced to the state of Texas that all enslaved persons had been declared free. Although the Emancipation Proclamation had become official over 2 years prior, the institution of slavery remained untouched in many areas around our nation. This day has become not only a time to commemorate liberation from the institution of slavery, but also a time to highlight resilience, solidarity, and our shared culture. It is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. Initially, a uniquely Texan observance, Juneteenth has now been recognized in some form by all but 3 states in our union. I'm proud to have participated each year in our county's annual Juneteenth celebration hosted by the Howard County Center for African American Culture right here at Oakland Manor. As Barack Obama once noted, Juneteenth has never been a celebration of victory or an acceptance of the way things are. Instead, it's a celebration of progress. It's an affirmation that despite the most painful parts of our history, things do get better. America can change. And today brings me great pleasure to announce that Howard County is recognizing June 19th as Juneteenth National Freedom Day, and this year it will become an official county holiday. This celebration is not just for our African American community, and that's an important distinction that I want to make. Following the creation of Juneteenth in 1865, African American people continued to fight for equality and fairness while serving in America's wars and conflicts, exemplifying courage, patriotism, and exhibiting patience with grace in the face of violence, segregation, and Jim Crow laws. Juneteenth provides the opportunity for our Howard County community to recognize the legacy, the painful legacy of slavery in America, the momentous movement to abolish slavery and the continuous effort to ensure equal rights for all in America. This is also an opportunity for us to send a message to the rest of Maryland, the United States, and the world of perseverance, unity, and hope for brighter tomorrows for all. I would also like to especially thank Jansen Evelyn, Howard County's Assistant Chief Administrative Officer and former acting head of our Office of Human Rights and Equity, who worked tirelessly to help us implement this holiday. Juneteenth is sometimes referred to as the other Independence Day. And it is a day that we can and should all celebrate. As Dr. Martin Luther King once said, no one is free until we are all free. And while we've made progress over the last 155 years, we still have some ways to go to ensure that every resident and member of our community is free and safe to live their very best lives. Thank you.
Thank you, County Executive. My name is Stephanie Wall. I am the Strategic Outreach Coordinator for the County Executive's Office, and it is my pleasure to bring up our speakers for today. First up, we have Dr. Everlene Cunningham, the Chair of the Howard County Center for African American Culture. Dr. Cunningham.
Thank you. Thank you, County Executive Ball and Stephanie. Can you hear me?
No, don't mess with it. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, pull it down.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
we see it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm especially pleased and honored to have the opportunity to speak today. I'm representing the Howard County Center of African American Culture, headquarters of which you see is right behind you. The center, the museum, has been celebrating Juneteenth in this county for a number of years. And the county executive has always been so supportive of our efforts in this regard. And he is showing his usual foresight and sensitivity in taking the giant step of declaring this a holiday in Howard County. We applaud this act. We are very happy that he has done so. And we would just like to invite everyone here to join us on June 19th on this site, where we will be kicking off our annual Juneteenth celebration.
Dr. Cunningham, can you spell your name,
Everlene
please?
is the first name. Cunningham is Cunningham. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cunningham. All speakers, when you come up, please state your name and spell it for our convenience, please. Up next, we have Dr. Denise Boston, the Equity and Restorative Practice Manager out of the Office of Human Rights and Equity. Dr. Boston.
Good afternoon. Denise Boston. My name is spelled Denise Boston. What an amazing opportunity for me to be standing here before you today. And I want to just say I'm just so honored to be standing with Dr. Cunningham and all the work that you've done in Howard County related to Juneteenth. The Office of Human Rights and Equity was pleased to host a virtual Juneteenth celebration in 2020, and we are really truly looking forward to the work that lies ahead in recognizing this wonderful celebration. This is a memorable day, an occasion to officially observe the oldest known celebration of the end of enslavement, Juneteenth. It demonstrates Howard County's commitment to truth, justice, and Black liberation. This moment in history, this is a moment in history to critically place everyone's consciousness on Juneteenth. Black liberation and justice is everyone's liberation and justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Boston. Coming to us next is Miss Bessie Bordenave, known to me as Aunt Bessie Bordenave, the chair of the Harriet Tubman Foundation. Aunt Bessie.
Good afternoon, everyone, to this bright sunny day that we have here as we stand on the grounds of a former slave plantation. This is an opportunity for us to understand what June 19th means to all of us. I'm sure that when the people in Galveston, Texas got the word, that some of them were shouting, some were singing, some were dancing, some were even crying because they knew not what the future holds for them. Juneteenth is a day where we're supposed to be coming together, expressing our feeling, and joining in with all groups to make sure that we do not repeat our history again. Thank you.
Thank you, Aunt Bessie. Coming up, we have Elder Miss Barbara Peart, who is one of the elders of the councils of elders here in Howard County. Miss Peart, or Mrs. Peart.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you for inviting us. My name is spelled B-A-R-B-A-R-A, and my last name is P-E-A-R-T. And as I thought about this celebration, I am so pleased, of course, that Howard County is recognizing this day in such a way. But I thought it was so, it really follows history that Juneteenth was 2 years late. Because as far as we have come, we still have a way to go. And so much of what is happening to African American and other people of color is still late. And so I hope as Howard County raises or rather elevates the celebration of Juneteenth, that we will also make sure that one of the things that we do in our county is make sure that our children know their history, and that history, what we now call Black history, is incorporated into American history, because that's what it is. And so thank you for doing this. Let us celebrate and let us make sure that the struggle for real freedom continues.
Thank you, Mrs. Peart. Thank you so very much. Up next, we have Dr. Vernon Gray, former councilman of District 2. Dr. Gray.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Stephanie, to County Executive Ball, and to all of you who are here today. I'm very pleased to be here with you on this wonderful occasion. I mentioned to Tony Cunningham that I wrote down what I was going to say, because that keeps me within the 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes that Jennifer said. Because you know how politicians are, sometimes they talk over. But I grew up in rural Calvert County, which had the most enslaved people in Maryland. At the time I grew up there was 34,000 people, of which 33% were Black. I went to a 3-room weatherboard segregated elementary school that my parents had attended. The school was originally built in 1860, but not with public funds, but by the parishioners in my home church, Mount Hope. In 1924, my school was renovated under the auspices of Booker T. Washington and philanthropist Julius Rosenberg. Mount Hope thus was a Rosenwald school. After the local government assumed control, it became known as the Mount Hope Colored Elementary School. I later went to a segregated W. Sampson Brooks High, named after a Black bishop of the Methodist Church. This high school was built too late for my parents to attend, so their formal education stopped at the 6th grade. In high school, I and my fellow students depended on hand-me-down textbooks from the nearby white school. The holidays I learned about in school celebrated President George Washington and President Abraham Lincoln. I never knew about Juneteenth as a day to celebrate and commemorate the end of slavery on June 19, 1865, which some call Jubilee Day or Liberation Day. Juneteenth was not in evidence in my school books, nor in it celebrated in any school programs. Fortunately, no child in elementary, middle, or high school in Howard County will be oblivious to the importance of Juneteenth in our lives. This holiday will now be remembered as a momentous event in Black history. We can commend the bold action of our County Executive, Calvin Ball, for this annual holiday remembrance here in Howard County. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the works of Willie Birch, Lord rest her soul, and the center here at Everlene Cunningham for raising the public consciousness through their annual Juneteenth program that featured O.H. Laston, may God rest his soul as well, who played the dramatic role of the last enslaved person freed from bondage. For a people's history to achieve recognition, it must be written, it must be celebrated, and it must be infused in the public memory. To remain silent would be a form of denial. The question can be raised, did they ever exist? Some sociologists and historians have claimed that blacks had no history, no tradition, no pride of ancestry. They lacked a common history. This holiday says otherwise. So this is a significant event in the history of Howard County, a county which has a history of enslaved people as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. Thank you very much. Up next, we have Dr. Elizabeth Sapp Jones, the Associate Minister from First Baptist Church of Guilford. Dr. Sapp Jones. My soror.
Well, as we say, praise the Lord. My name is spelled E-L-I-Z-A-B-E-T-H. Sapp is spelled S as in Sam, A as in Apple, P as in Peter, P as in Paul, J-O-N-E-S, no hyphen, just a space. Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Sapp Jones, and I bring you greetings from the First Baptist Church of Guilford in Columbia, Maryland, where the pastor is Reverend Dr. Tyrone P. Jones IV. As we have heard, Juneteenth celebrates the Juneteenth celebration dates back to 1865 and serves as the oldest national celebration commemorating the end of slavery. It was on Juneteenth when the Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger landed in Galveston, Texas, with enough troops and force to enforce the executive order that was issued by President Lincoln 2 years earlier. It was at that time and with those troops that they had both the influence and the force necessary to overcome the resistance and set the people free. This commemoration remains important because it celebrates freedom, the very freedom this country represents, freedom from oppression, tyranny, and social and economic and racial subjugation. Today, in the wake of the new laws being erected to disenfranchise voters in an effort to keep the will of the people and the voice of the people from being heard, this celebration reminds us that none of us are free until all of us are free and enabled to enjoy those freedoms that we declare to be important and that were noted in our own Declaration of Independence. Shall I remind you? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, let us remember Juneteenth and use our collective voices and influence to overcome the resistance and continue to move our country towards freedom, freedom from all, and not just for the privileged few. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sapp Jones. Just a space, no hyphen. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Willie Flowers, the president of the NAACP Maryland State Conference and Howard County NAACP. Willie.
Good afternoon. Willie Flowers, WILLIE-FLOWERS, and I'm with the NAACP, the largest and the oldest, the baddest and the boldest, the most loved, the most hated, the most feared and revered, and most cussed and discussed civil rights organization out here in it. I'm here to let y'all know that this is a good day. I want to especially acknowledge the county executive for his work, because this ain't all he does. He's sitting here right now. But I'm going to tell y'all this real quick. I met with him a few months ago, was it? And he had this story. I was excited to tell him that I was having a COVID shot the next day, but he told me he didn't get his COVID shot because he wanted y'all to get yours first. Now, that's some dedication to him. So I want to acknowledge that. That shows the spirit and dedication to y'all before he cares about himself. But I want to kind of just get into this because it's important for me, because I can't go nowhere without establishing the significance of the ancestors to all of this, because they were out here. I'm glad that Mama Bessie Bordenave acknowledged it, because they were out here they weren't out here in no suit. They weren't out here doing nothing that we doing today. But they paved the way for what we're doing here today. And they certainly paved the way for this young man to be the county executive, the first African-American county executive in this county, and that's a big deal. But I want to frame this based on what we're going through now. And the significance of now is that we're in a pandemic, as we all know. And I Google, if you hurry up and go to the book of Wikipedia and Google pandemics, what you'll find is a long list of pandemics from 13-something to now. And it highlights all the people who are dead because of diseases. And we get into the details of that. But the most significant thing relevant to Juneteenth is that the most deadly pandemic was the one called white supremacy and racism. And that pandemic, not only did it start before, I guess when Europeans decided they want to do this, the reality is it extends until this day. And Juneteenth is such a celebration that reminds us to understand the details of white supremacy before we talk about anything else. See the horror of it, know that our ancestors endured it, but know that we have a role in transforming it into something that's more positive and bold for everybody, because Juneteenth is for everybody. It ain't just for black folks. I'm sorry, the black folks are the only ones that got a chance to speak today. But the message should go out to everyone that Juneteenth set the stage for some type of emancipation for this whole country. So let's keep it going. And it's our job to dismantle white supremacy, racism, and we got to get busy doing it. Thank y'all for inviting me out here.
All right, so before we get to the questions and answering portion, I would like to just first remind all of the speakers, we'd like to get a picture with you right here before you leave. So this is an opportunity for any questions anyone may have. Are there any questions? County Executive? And
Thank you. I'll repeat the question.
Real quick, obviously this is a historical moment, nationwide, with all that's going on. The personal motivation behind it, can you speak to that? And then to move forward with the date and the county, are you allocating any funds to any organizations such as the Harriet Tubman? They need some funding for their school, one of the black schools in the county, and other stuff like that. What's the plan forward?
So the question was, given the significant time period in our nation, what was the motivation? And moving forward, what kind of support and funding will there be, particularly for organizations that align with what we're launching today? Now more than ever, we need to come together in a time of healing, in a time of unity, to not only remember our past, but to learn from it and create that best future for all. Juneteenth is a commemoration of not only being able to talk about freedom, but the ongoing struggle to embrace freedom and make it a reality for all. Having it be a real holiday here, not just a holiday that we all celebrate in bits and pieces, but frankly a holiday that the county government acknowledges, elevates it, as Dr. Gray said, not just for those who are interested in learning about it, but for everyone who needs to learn about it. And as we're currently putting together our operating budget, we will, as we have been building since I've been county executive, continue to invest in those entities that help make the quality of life for all of our residents, but also the best future that our residents can build with not just our time and our talent, but also our treasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you, County Executive. So stay tuned to hear more, particularly from all of these wonderful people and our partners with the Town Center and the County Executive and so many more. So please stay tuned. So we'd like to thank all of you that are here, all of you that are watching, all of you that are watching the replay. We're thanking you, thanking you, thank you. So are there any additional questions at this time before we wrap up? Yes, ma'am. That's on. Where is the June 19th celebration going to be held? It is my understanding it's going to be held here at the Oakland, out front of the Oakland. The last conversation I had with Dr. Cunningham, they were looking at this space.
Is there possibility to look at another space?
Just a moment.
Space where former slaves were.
So the question was where the upcoming Juneteenth celebrations will be. Usually Dr. Cunningham and her group coordinate that. I think as we move forward, especially in this global pandemic, we're looking at all options, and I think that this space is the likely option, and Dr. Cunningham and her group will, I'm sure, keep an open mind about any other options. And so this ends the press conference for today. Thank you so much.